Alright, here we are. Back in treetops, gotta keep my eyes shaded, and I'm looking right at the sun now. But I'm gonna try to stay off to the side like this. I don't know, maybe that green and the trees back there will do something for you. What is that? Where's this shadow coming from right there? Oh, it's the camera. You can see the outline of it. You see the cord going off, and then look around right there. That's my cell phone sitting on a tripod. It's just gonna be there. Deal with it. Alright, Treetops Park. I just moved to a different location of the park to make this video. I made a bunch of videos over here recently. And instead of going to a different park today, I'm sticking with treetops. Okay. And one of my recent videos, I spoke on like animal training standards, and then I talked a little bit about instructors, but I wanted to save the instructor conversation for a different video because I think it's a whole different topic. On my note here, it says, I don't know if you can see that or not, wherever. Instructor equals student. You know what that means? What do I mean by that? Instructor equals student. Okay. I'm just going to share my experience because that's all I got. All right. Okay. Look, I started off in fire EMS when I was 15 years old. That's a long time ago now. I'm 59 now. And I wouldn't be crap. I want to use another word, but I try to censor myself at least a little bit here. So in case, like, your kid's watching. But, you know, I really don't care if your kid hears a cuss word because that's the real word, real world. The real word. Was that a Freudian slip? The real world, that's the real deal, man. People cuss. I cuss all the time. Some people say that's a sign of somebody who's, I forgot what the saying is. Yeah, sometimes only a cuss word will fit the situation. It just adds the perfect emphasis on that situation. And those of you who are bothered by it, get a thick skin, go to therapy, whatever. All right, so let's get back to instructor equals student. All of my best mentors, all of my best instructors were always continuous students. All of them. They were continuous students of the craft, whatever that happened to be. See, like, I don't want to mention people's names because the internet gets really weird. Let me tell you, being on the internet, when you make videos and people watch your videos, the freaks come out and they don't wait until night. They're on 24 hours a day. They're always on duty. Anyway, so, no, I shouldn't call them freaks because I consider myself a freak. Those are a bunch of weirdo, troll, nonsense people. So let's stick to this. So my EMT instructor, CO, that's his initials. That guy was fantastic. And he was knowledgeable. He always knew what he was doing. That guy makes a great emergency medical technician instructor. I mean, like, he was like a role model to me. And he always supported what I did. When I first was going to EMT school, they found out I started when I was 17 years old. I got in class. You know, they didn't ask. They probably just said that guy kind of looks a little young, but he's got the money. He signed up for it. He's in the class. It wasn't until we were about halfway through EMT class they figured out I was 17 years old. And they're like, oh no, that's going to be a problem. And so CO went to the state, not the state board, but I forgot what they call that. There's a person who's in charge of EMS there. And he went to bat for me up there and made a case for, hey, look, this guy's in EMT school. He's 17 now, but by the time he can take the boards, he can't take the boards before that anyway because he won't be out of EMT school. But he'll have had his birthday by the time he gets out of EMT school, and I don't know what to say. And there you go. So they're like, well, what can we say? He'll be 18 when he takes the state board. You have to be 18 to do that. But they were like, there's nothing in the regulations or the law or anything that says you can't be 17 to take the class. All right, that's how desperate they were for EMTs in there. And just to give you a note, when I walked out of EMT school, I had a job waiting for me at the fire department. The chief of the department's like, as soon as you get your certification from your state boards, let us know. We'll put you on the schedule the next day. Literally. So anyway, that's not whatever. That's just goes to show you like some of my history there. So it started off a really long time ago with some awesome people. Then I got on before my actually I was still in EMT school when I was on the rescue squad there. I was on the rescue squad as a rescue squad explorer, and my best mentors were either like active duty military or people who had just come, hadn't been back very long from Vietnam, those kind of guys. And they were also like military firefighters and stuff. So I'm going to tell you something about learning. This is one of the most valuable things that you can learn about anything that you want to do. Keep showing up and show your level of dedication. And what do I mean by that? When I was at the rescue squad, first thing I do when I get in there, I'd check in. All right, I'm on the scene here where I'm ready to respond. I'd take out the trash if the trash needed to be taken out. If the bay floors even had what I thought might be a little bit of dust on it, I asked the rescue squad members to move the vehicles out so I could sweep the bays out. I cleaned bathrooms, replaced the paper towels, whatever needed to be done in there. I washed dishes, whatever. But I kept showing up. And let me tell you what that did for me. All of a sudden, no other Explorer Scouts were allowed. Oh man, am I getting mosquitoes already? We might have to switch locations here. No other Explorer Scouts were allowed to go out on runs. But then suddenly, they're like, grab a helmet and a jacket and go out on this call with us. You can't imagine how exciting that was to pop a helmet on, a bunker coat, and the next thing I know, we're Squad 51, man. Okay, so enough reminiscing. I just try to make a point. If you keep showing up and you show a level of dedication and interest in stuff, mentors will see that. They'll spot that in you. But you got to mean it. It's got to be a passion for you, because if it's not, it'll show. It'll show. There's not going to be any faking that. All right, so let's get back to instructors equal students. Those guys were always students. They were always striving to learn more. They realized that even though they had lots of experience, and whoa, the sun's really getting there. Even though they had lots of experience, and people like to see your face in the videos, and I agree, but sorry, this is what we got today. They know they have the experience, but they also realize there is always more to learn. You can always be better at what you're doing. I'll say that again, because that's so important that it just can't be stressed enough. There's always more to learn. There is always a way to improve yourself, to get better. And those people imparted that sort of, they didn't give that to me because I showed up with it, but what they did is they reinforced that in a very important way for me. And the rewards were, by the time that I was able to go out and start working professionally when I turned 18, I already had a reputation at the local fire departments, the city department, in a couple different cities over there in Fort Campbell, Oak Grove, Clarksville, and a couple of others farther away than that, because I'd been involved with stuff and I just showed up, and I'm like, I'm not going to let anybody tell me no. I'm going to be on this run, because that's the only way for me to get better. The only way to get better is to keep showing up and have humility. Check your ego. Like, the best thing that you can do with your ego right now is tell it to shut up, get the hell out of there, and don't sabotage you. Because if you stay in that small-minded ego place, you're going to miss out on opportunities And depending on how your ego is, you may create a situation so nobody likes you. And once you establish that kind of relation or reputation, boy, it's really hard to get rid of that. I mean, that's like some permanent stink that you can't get off. All right, so don't do it. Check your ego and realize that no, you don't know it all, and that you can always be better. So these instructors who are students, the state fire instructor that came down to our department to teach us and certify us as firefighters, my paramedic instructor, the other thing that's really important about that, and I'll explain this in a second here, is that they had experience. These weren't people who just learned something from a book, went to college, and now they're certifying me as an emergency medical technician, as a paramedic, as a firefighter. No. These people all had in-field experience to draw off on, so that when a student asks a question about what's going on out in the field, they can answer that question with some authority because they actually have experience doing that. And anybody that's been to school, like for fire EMS, you know that there's a world of difference between your school classroom settings than when you get out in the field. Things, yeah, it's not all clean, air-conditioned, pretty, bug-free, or all those other nice things that you get in a classroom. All right, so these instructors, I'm gonna say something like this. I was going to become a CPR instructor for the two big names. I'm not going to mention them, but when I started to go become an instructor for that, I realized that I don't know what the percentage is of people, but I can tell you this: it is very high percentage of people who are teaching you CPR have never done CPR on an actual human being. They only learned it in a classroom, and now they're teaching you how to do it. And to some degree, that's okay, because there's a very lineal, okay, ABCs, your compressions are this is your compression location, this kind of thing. But then there's the how you're doing CPR out in the field in a confined space. There's one, how you're doing CPR in the back of an ambulance is much different than the way you're doing CPR in a classroom. Wait till you do it in the back of a moving ambulance. You see my point? So I say that I really, I'm not studying to be an accountant and I'm not putting out these things down. What I'm saying is you can learn to be an accountant in a classroom by somebody, at some university that probably hasn't done it out in the field. Whereas if you're learning from somebody the real benefit of that, let me just put it this way, is military. Do you want to learn from a guy who only learned military infantry tactics and infantry tactics, that learned it from a book and who's never been in combat? Or do you want to know what the experienced combat guy has to say about it? Because he actually has experience and can talk about how different what you learn in the books in the classroom is from actually what takes place out in the field. And I know about that because of my experience with the military, the 101st Airborne Division over there. Almost all of my mentors growing up were either active duty or former military guys that had been in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, whatever it was. So I know from listening to those guys share their experiences with me how completely different it is once you get out there and the bullets are flying. So fire EMS animal rescue is no different, because really where I'm going with this, I'm always trying to address animal rescue personnel and trying to convince them how important it is for them to get out and get training. But so how does somebody become an instructor, right? When I was out doing rescue, there were no classes, no certifications for rescue divers. There was no certifications or classes for rope rescue, for cave rescue. Okay? I've been a certified diver since '79. I've been in caves since I was a kid, all this stuff. You know where we got that stuff? We made it up as we went along. That's how we lived through it. So the thing is, how does somebody start getting certified in like dive rescue and these are 3 good ones I like to use: dive, rope, or cave rescue. Well, it didn't materialize out of just nowhere. It's not taught in a college, because who are these college people going to get it? Are they going to teach you the theory of dive rescue, the theory of rope rescue, without any actual experience in the field? Those are things that I don't want to learn from anyone except from somebody who actually did it, and who is what makes a good instructor: constantly learning, constantly trying to make things better, and realizing that they don't know it all and that there's so much more to learn. It will take the rest of their lifetime to pack their brain, and they still won't have learned everything, because so many situations or incidents are different. Some of them will seem similar, but they're all uniquely different in their own special way. So, to me, the instructor is always the best student. And I don't mean like you get straight A's or you ace the test. I'm talking about that constant learning, and that's where that comes from. And so let's talk about that as it relates to animal. So who are you gonna go and learn from to learn these animal rescue techniques? I mentioned before, and I didn't have time to research it, but I know of 2 organizations right now, there may be more, who claim that they have an animal rescue technician certification, and that they can teach you animal rescue techniques, whatever. I don't know how to teach you how to be a certified animal rescue technician. And I'm going to do a video specifically on these different standards, where I may not mention the organization by name, but I will research those standards, and we'll talk about how I think that they are, because I know of one. It's a really well-known organization, but who is teaching animal rescue, and what's their experience? You get it? Because so many organizations, even to this very moment, are still hands off when it comes to animal rescue. So where do they get their curriculum from? All right, that's where I'm going with it. So these curriculums: dive rescue, caving, rope rescue technician, came from people who were good at doing it. Oh, also swift water rescue. These are people who were good at doing a skill that was unrelated to rescue, who slowly developed these different techniques out of necessity, and then they were good at it because they're the constant student, and people recognized it, and they're like, hey, you're really good at this, would you teach us how to do it? And then so that's where a lot of these specialty fields emerged out of nothingness, seemingly nothingness, into these certifications that are now NFPA certifications. They have a different, like usually it's awareness, operations, and technician level. And so, that materialized out of seemingly nothing. It materialized out of people who were just doing things, and then somebody said, damn, we need to learn how to do that. Could you teach us that? And then a lot of these companies that are out here doing it today, that's how they got their start. Like I'll mention by name CMC. Their rescue school is I guarantee you it's one of the best in the United States and possibly the world, because they got some people who are just top-notch individuals, constant students, and they're out there. The other thing about a teacher is I'm going to convey, like when I'm teaching you, I convey information to you. I'm like, okay, this is how a catch pole works. Now let's go use the catch pole. And then I let the person make non-life-threatening mistakes, because sometimes that's the only way that you can get that experience, the feel of a tool or whatever that is. So then you can say, oh, I felt that, I saw that happen, and it wouldn't have been, that's something you can't teach in a classroom. It has to be done in the field, if I'm making my point well. Yeah. So be careful who you're taking your classes from, but also realize that some of this stuff, it's sort of a modern thing. Like, I'll give you a good example. There's the Technical Large Animal Emergency Rescue. Rebecca Husted and her former husband used to teach that class. It's been around for, I'm not sure how many years at this point. I know that I got certified way back in 2002 or 2003 was when I first took that class. So that's another one of those classes that emerged out of people just going out there and start doing it. They figured something else. They figured out something that worked, kept sticking by it, and then they end up teaching others. So, and I'm using that as an example because the TLAIR stuff now has an NFPA standard, which I would have never dreamed of happening 20 years ago or however the number is now. I would have never dreamed that NFPA would have a standard for animal rescue. But they are coming out, but I'm always skeptical of who's making the decision on what the standard is, because just a few hours doing this or that's not enough, people. It's just not enough. I can't teach you animal behavior in a classroom. I can teach you some basics, but we got to go out in the field and actually witness things firsthand. So that's not just a few hour class. That's several hours of in-field work where you can see that. Yeah, I think I've kind of burned through this topic. The best instructors are constant students, and they don't. All of my instructors that I can remember never had no kind of weird ego issues. They were all humble people. Always like, I know I could be better. I'm not perfect. I'm never good enough. There's a certain I'm good enough, and yeah, you have that, but you also realize, even though you're good enough, there's still so much more to learn. I think I'm repeating myself. Yeah. All right. We're going to be signing off. Oh, don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section there, wherever you're watching this video. I'd sure like to know what you think of what I've said here today. Yeah, I can't think of anything else except that's it.